Well, good afternoon, my leadership friends. J. Scott Cotton, the voice of leadership, and so excited to be here with you on another episode of the Lead Right podcast. I know you all have missed the last 2 weeks. Well, technically, what happened was I took a couple of weeks off just to kind of refocus and just kind of redesign a couple of things that I'm doing as it relates to lead right. And that's why it's important that you all stay connected to what we're doing, because we are doing some tremendous things with the lead right community. As always, just want to get you all connected and get you all very involved in terms of what we are doing with the lead right community. So some great things are happening, and I'm really excited what's taking place. So, get connected, follow, subscribe. Cotton and Company Leadership Group on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching YouTube, you have to subscribe, as well as you can subscribe to the podcast on Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. And then always Mondays, Fridays, you want to get that inspirational leadership text message from the Lead Right text message group at 84576. Text Lead Right to 84576. Now, listen, if you subscribe and if you get others to subscribe, you have a chance of winning something really special from the Lead Right community. All right, so let's prepare to jump in on today, because I'm excited to be here again, and I'm just ready to kind of jump into this topic. So I was talking to some leaders recently over these last 2 weeks, and the question became, how do we mobilize? How do we move our leadership forward? How do we move our team forward? So today, I want to focus on mobilizing your leadership. Mobilizing your leadership. Now, this is very important, because you can't be effective as a leader if you're not moving your team forward, if you're not moving your leadership forward. And there's some things that we're going to talk about today. And this is probably going to be maybe a 2 or 3 part episode, a topic. But mobilizing your leadership. I want you to stop and think for a second. Are you mobilizing your leadership? Is your leadership moving uh, in the direction that you envision? Or do you feel like your leadership is stagnant? Do you feel like you as a leader is stagnant? So today, the next couple of episodes, definitely want to discuss this: mobilizing, moving your leadership, because I know the frustration that we could have as leaders when we feel stagnant. I know the feeling when it feels as though we're not moving our leadership forward, when we're not moving our team forward, we're not moving our vision and our mission forward. That's not a really good feeling. It's really not a good feeling. It's very draining. It's very draining. There's no energy. The team doesn't have any morale. So there's a lot of things that are missing. And I think this is why it's very important that we begin to really look at this topic of mobilizing your leadership, because it is so huge in this movement. Right now, I was today, for a matter of fact, was watching the news, and they were sharing how the United States is mobilizing troops in this whole conflict between Ukraine and Russia. And they've been mobilizing the troops to just be in the region if something was to happen. And of course, we pray and hope nothing happens. So let's look at mobilizing your leadership. So what is mobilizing your leadership? Mobilizing is the action of bringing resources into use for a particular purpose. Okay, bringing resources into use for a particular purpose. Okay, that's mobilizing. You have to know what your resources are. So let's look at your resources. All right. I think a lot of times when we talk about resources, we talk about some tangible things, right? We talk about tangible thing, money. We talk about location and that type of thing. No, mobilizing, bringing resources into use is also your human resources. Your human resources. And now this can go two ways. Let's say you have a leadership team. All right. Are you bringing them together for a particular purpose? What is the purpose that you have your team? What is the purpose? And what is the purpose of everyone that's on that team? See, it's not just, oh, I have this leadership team, I have this vision. But what is the purpose? What is the purpose of bringing those individuals into the vision that you have for your organization, for your department? If you're hiring someone, what is the purpose? Okay? What is the purpose? So you're going to define what that purpose is. And then you're going to take that action. You're going to bring those resources together for a particular purpose. That is the beginning. That is how you start to mobilize. That is how you start movement, because you're bringing your resources together. Now, outside of your human resources, yes, you do have financial resources. You do have collaboration with other organizations or other departments and things like that you want. But all of that is still the same. You're still bringing them together for a particular purpose. So, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? You have to know what the purpose is. What is the purpose? And once you're very clear on the purpose, then you're bringing those resources together for that purpose and for that purpose only. For that purpose only. Now, if you're bringing them together and you're not clear on the purpose, then you're not going to have any movement. You will be stagnant, and that's where you don't want to be as a leader. But here's the other thing. Let me just kind of share this with you. Even your leadership, you have to know what is your purpose as a leader. What is your purpose as a leader, and are you bringing resources to your purpose as a leader? Why are you in this leadership role? What are you ultimately called to do? Right. So you got to be able, you have to be able to do that. So let's look at another one. Another definition of mobilizing and movement: the action of making something movable or capable of movement. Now look at this definition right here: the action of making something movable or capable of movement. All this rests on you as the leader. So if your team isn't moving, if your leadership isn't moving, here's a good evaluation question: the action of making something movable. What are you putting in place for them to move, or even have the capacity to move? Are they capable of moving? Are there some things that are blocking the movement? Okay, you got to look at those factors as you talk about mobilizing my leadership, mobilizing my team. The action of making something movable. What are you doing as the leader that's making the team move, making them movable? Okay. Now, I want to suggest this, and you would hear me say this a lot as it relates to movement and leadership in teams. I say this a lot, and you've heard it, not just from me, but I know you've heard it in other leadership settings before. It's not about having a lot of people on the bus in seats, but it's about having the right people on the bus in the right seats. I think I shared this in an earlier episode. Um, someone is gifted, someone is talented to drive your leadership bus, and it doesn't have to be you. Okay, it doesn't have to be you. You have to be able to identify what seat everyone on your team is supposed to be sitting in. Who's the driver? Because see, as the leader, you may just simply be the visionary. You may be the one who tells the team where you're going. Okay, you may be the one who's telling the team where the bus is to go, but there is someone that is designed, that is gifted, that is called to drive that bus, right? And then you got other people in the right seats. That's that action. That's making something movable or capable of movement. Now, you know, let's say you have let's say you have someone that's really good at organizing, but you have them in the driver's seat. Listen, they don't know how to start the bus. They don't know how to put the bus in gear. Okay, they don't know how to adjust the mirrors and do all of those things. In a bus, there's some knobs and there's some things that they have to be able to do to drive that bus. Well, if you got someone who's very organized, they don't even know how to get the bus moving. Now, what happens with that? You have the people that's in the seat that are complaining that there's no movement. And you as the leader have to keep your eye on who's in what seat. Now, the person that's very organized, you have them in the driver's seat, but the actual driver is on the back of the bus. They're sitting in the rear of the bus. And you know what happens to that person? You know what happens to the person who is supposed to be in the driver's seat? They're in the bike getting frustrated. They're in the bike getting mad. They're in the bike um feeling like they're not contributing. They're not contributing to the movement because they know what it takes and they know what's in them. But you have them sitting in the rear of the bus and they're sitting right there. And eventually, you know what eventually going to happen? Eventually, what will happen is the driver that's sitting in the rear of the bus is going to hit that emergency latch door in the rear of the bus and possibly get off. They're going to jump ship. Hear me. They're going to jump ship. And when they jump ship, there's definitely going to be no movement. And then you as the leader are going to be kind of frustrated because at this point, you didn't recognize that was the driver. You didn't recognize the talent and the gifts that you had in that individual who was supposed to have been driving. And what's going to happen is now you're going to start pulling people out of different seats that still do not have the gift and the talents to drive your leadership bus. And you're going to be putting people constantly in the driver's seat and no one is going to be able to do it. Now the morale of the whole team is low because none of them feel as though that they have movement. None of them feel as though the team is moving. And now everybody is talking about it. Now watch what's going to happen. Now everybody is talking about the fact that they're not moving, but eventually the conversation is going to change from why we're not moving to what you're doing and you're the leader. Now your leadership is in question. Now your leadership is in question because you're supposed to be moving them. And again, it's not saying that you're designed to drive the bus, but you're supposed to be moving them by making something movable or have the what? Capacity, have the capability of movement. Okay? So let's jump in. So let's look at some things that cause your leadership to mobilize your leadership. So let's look at a few things actually, of mobilizing your leadership. You're going to mobilize your leadership around vision. You're going to mobilize your leadership around vision. Now, the next episode next week, I'm going to go into some definition of each one of these. But I don't really want to do it today. And most of you who are watching or listening, you know what vision is, right? But if you don't have a vision, you're not going to be able to mobilize. Okay, you won't be able to mobilize if you do not have vision. So let's look at the next one. Let's look at the next one. We're talking about mobilizing your leadership, mobilizing your team, right? Um, you got to mobilize them around mission. What is the mission of the organization? What is the mission of your department? What is the mission of your leadership? Okay. As the leader, you have to be able to clearly define the vision, and you have to clearly define the mission. This is really, really important. And I've seen a lot of organizations, I've seen a lot of leaders stuck. And the first thing that I'm going to always ask a leader or organization is, or the team, what is your vision? What is your mission? What is your vision? What is your mission? If I have no vision, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going if I have no vision. If I have no mission, I don't know what I'm existing to do. Okay. So those two components is very, very vital to the movement of your leadership or your organization. Let's look at another one. Core values. Core values. Core values. If you don't have a clearly defined set of core values that guide your leadership or guide your organization or guide your business or guide your department, listen, I want to speak for a second. Let me pause for just a second. And I want to speak to those who say I'm an entrepreneur. And if you're listening to this and you're watching this, I want you to share this with entrepreneurs, because I'm starting to really, really discover that entrepreneurs not equipping themselves in leadership. They're building a business in the community. They're building a business with a team of people working with no leadership foundation. Now, you can go spend a lot of money on how to brand your business, how to market your business. But if you don't know how to lead that business, if you don't know how to lead the people that's working for you, you're wasting your money. You're wasting your money. What is the vision of your business? Is it just to provide a product or a service? What is the vision of it? What is the mission of your business? What guides your business? What guides you as the business owner? Listen, we've got to change our mindset, especially those of you who are entrepreneurs. You have to change your mindset. You are a leader with entrepreneur skill sets. That, that foundation has to be built on top of each other. Okay? Because if you're going to hire a team of people to work your business, you got to lead those people. It's not just about getting them to do a task and then you giving them a check. No, it's about leading them. It's about leading them. So what's the core values? Here's the other thing that's going to help in your movement. Number 4, culture. 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 Listen, you know how important this is? This is vital. You have to know, one, you have to build a successful culture in your department, in your leadership, and in your organization. Right? Had a conversation with the leader recently, and just kind of listening to them share about their area, and I had to ask, who's building the culture? See, as the leader, you can't expect cultural change if you're not the change agent of that culture. You have to be the change agent for that culture change. You have to define that culture. Now, other than that, whatever your leadership is housed, or your department or your business, what's the culture around it? What's the culture around it? Again, entrepreneurs, what's the culture around Before the pandemic, I was going over to Africa every year. Wonderful opportunity to go to Kenya and Tanzania and Uganda twice. Wonderful, wonderful opportunity. But it's a totally different culture. So when I went and I was spending time with pastors and church leaders talking about leadership, I had to craft my presentations not from an American culture, but from a Kenya or Tanzania or Uganda culture, because it's different. Okay, it's different. Your business may not thrive in certain areas of the city because you the culture of that area won't support your business. The culture, if you don't design the culture of your department, of your team, someone else going to define it, and it may go totally against the vision, the mission, and the core values that you as the leader set. Okay, so this is why it's important. Now, what we're going to do on the next episode, we're going to define each one of these. Okay, so we're going to talk a little more about mobilizing your leadership, but mobilizing your leadership with vision, mission, core values, and culture in place. And we're going to talk about this a little more. So I want to thank you all for being patient as I took those 2 weeks off, just to kind of clear my mind and be clear in terms of what I present to you on Lead Right. Again, I am committed to motivating, inspiring, and equipping you as leaders to be the best leader and to lead right. I've never had any leader come to me and say, I don't want to be an effective leader. I want to be a poor leader. And I've never had that. I have people come to me and say, I want to be better. I want to enhance my leadership skills. So I'm always making sure that I'm equipped and that I'm clear. Okay. I do understand consistency is big, but also consistency in messaging is big. And I don't want to give you a half-baked podcast or YouTube live. So thank you all so much. Listen, go ahead right now. Text Lead Right to 84576. Right now, grab your phone and text that Lead Right to 84576 as well. Do me a favor, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Okay, subscribe to this YouTube channel and share it with others that you believe it will benefit. Okay, I love to connect with you all on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That creates engagement. I'm able to engage with you more. Okay, I'm able to engage you more. You can message me. We can have dialogue. We can have conversation. And then if you want to send me a email, my email is down at the bottom here. Is jscott@cottonandcompanylg.org. Okay, for those of you who are listening on the podcast, jscott@cottonandcompanylg.org. Send me an email. Okay, give me a review. Give me a review. Hopefully it's a good review, but give me a review, because I always want to be better as we all attempt to lead right. Thank you so much. God bless you. I love you. I'll be talking with you next week.